Hey, how's it going? John from Branson, Cerakote here. About a month or so ago, NIC sent a kind of a big window decal to all the certified applicators, and we really didn't have a use for it here in the shop. It was just a little too big to fit where we would have probably put it. But it got me thinking about doing something, kind of a wall hanger type of thing to show that we're certified. So what I did is I picked up some sheet steel. So what we're going to do is lay the stencil on that I had Laura make with the certified applicator badge, sandblast it, and then what we're going to do is kind of a tarnished gold or kind of tarnished brass look to it. I haven't done a video on that technique, so I figured this would be the perfect time to go ahead and do that. It's pretty simple, but there are quite a few steps to it. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the sandblast cabinet, get it sanded down. I'm going to go ahead and spray it with Noveske Tiger Eye because I don't have any gold, but it's really not going to matter. And then from there, we're going to spray burnt bronze. We're going to acetone battle wear it. We're going to spray Vortex bronze, acetone battle wear that, and then go back over it with some black and kind of dirty it up and battle wear it again, just really lightly. And then bake it all off. We went ahead and put the stencil on so that we'd mask off that stainless steel and that badge would really pop out from all the kind of blended tarnish look that we're going to have on there. We also bought some just pieces to kind of frame it, some aluminum angle pieces, and I'm going to go ahead and powder coat those just because it'll give it a nice contrast. And we've got some black powder coat that looks sort of like truck bed liner, so we'll do that with the end pieces and the border, actual border itself, the little corner pieces. So I'm going to pop this in the sandblast cabinet. We'll get it sanded down and I'll be right back. Okay, so we've got our base coat of Noveske Tiger Eye down. It's fully tacked out, so there's no stickiness left in it at all. And what we're going to do now is spray burnt bronze. But what we're going to do, a couple different things you'll do differently when you're doing this technique. One, you don't want a nice even layer on there. You want it kind of blotchy and kind of, a little closer, a little further away. So that's how I get that effect with the gun. I'll go like normal distance and then I'll go a little further away and it just lightens it up and it gives you almost two colors with the same color. So we'll put that on heavy enough to coat what's underneath, but not 1 mil or anything like that because we don't want to build up around that stencil and have a ridge when it's done. So what we'll do after that is we'll hang it on the rack, let it air cure for the 8 to 10 minutes to get the solvent out of it and let it level, and then we'll pop it in the oven. The difference at this step and this step on that you're going to do differently than you normally would for battle wear or something is you want it past that stage of wetness where you're going to leave a fingerprint but not all the way tacked out. So somewhere in the middle there, as close to the wet side as you can get it and still really kind of sticky. So what happens is it's a lot easier to wipe that stuff off with the acetone. I'll get the coating mixed up, put in the gun. You'll see us spray it on here, and then when we come back you'll see what I'm talking about with the wiping that off and how easy it is. So be right back. All right, so what we're gonna do now is take just a cheap Harbor Freight shop towel, basically, wrap it around your fingers, and then just spray a little acetone on there and just start gently wiping it off. The fact that it's sticky, it's not quite all the way tacked out, this stuff will come off really easy, so you've got to be careful that you don't rub, or you'll rub all the way down to the metal and kind of ruin what you're doing. So it's very light, you'll kind of see it on the camera, it's just basically just brushing against the surface and it takes that burnt bronze right off of the metal. So you just want to rub this in kind of just irregular patterns. One thing to keep in mind, you need to be careful about getting too close to that stencil material because the acetone will actually rub some of that yellow pigment off and rub it into your coating. So you just want to kind of go along the edges of the stencil. What you're ultimately trying to do is just kind of blend that burnt bronze in with the gold. So there's no real rhyme or reason to it, and actually the blotchier it looks, the more messed up it looks, the better your final effect will be. So that looks pretty good. That's kind of what we're going for. And then what we're going to do next is actually spray some green on here. I'm going to kind of add a little bit of tarnish, just really, really light, to add one more little kind of accent to it. And then after that, we'll spray the vortex bronze on it and do this exact same technique to blend that vortex bronze in with the burnt bronze. And then we'll go back with the black, kind of speckle it, do a little bit of shadowing, and then it'll be finished. It'll be ready to go in the oven for an hour at 300 to bake that off and be good to go. So be right back. Alright, so at this point what we're going to do is the same thing we did before, just kind of rub this in a random pattern to rub a lot of that vortex bronze off, and then after that we're going to spatter it and do a little bit of shading with some black. But for the most part at this step you've got what you got. The spattering just makes it look pitted, and then the shading will just allow us to kind of highlight a few things. So there's not going to be a whole lot after this that you're going to be able to do. So this is where you want to make sure it's exactly the way you want it. So same technique. Just take a rag, put some acetone on it. Normally you'd wrap this around your fingers, but with something this big it just seemed to work better to just wipe. I think that's about where I want it. It turned out a little different than I thought it was going to, but I still like it. It's got more of an industrial look than a kind of tarnished gold or anything. But you know, some of these techniques, they just turn out differently with different materials and different, you know, surfaces. So you never really know what you're going to get, but that's why you do R&D. But even though this didn't turn out like the tarnished gold I was kind of shooting for, I still really like it. So we're going to go back. We're going to spatter this a little bit with some black. So I'll be right back. All right, so now we're ready to just put the speckling on. Just a quick kind of equipment note. At least in my experience, the Iwata, when you try to speckle with it, it'll run, it drips out of the front, creates quite a mess. So what I found is a lot of these cheap $10, $12 eBay guns work really good for doing speckling and some of the other shading and things. So don't be afraid to use a cheap gun once you're, you know, what you're trying to do, your base coat and everything else is already on. You've already got that protection, you got that nice smooth coat. But a lot of times with these little effects, a little shading, a little speckling, these cheap guns do great. So, you know, just a little side note on that. So we're set up, you dial the air all the way down to 0, and then you just crack it open just enough with a lot of volume to give you that kind of speckle on the paper. So once you're there, you're good to go. And then we'll dial the air back out. Take some volume off of it. And add just some shading around the edges. That's it. We'll pop it in the oven for an hour at 300, get it completely baked out, and we'll peel the stencils off and see what we got. So be back in a few. All right, so for the last step, I'm going to powder coat the frame that's going to go around it once it's mounted on the wall with Prismatic Powers Splatter Black. It's got kind of a cool truck bed liner look to it, so I thought that would make a really good frame to go around it. That's about all the talking I'm going to do on camera. There'll be some pictures at the end of the final project, so stick around for those after the video ends. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, and check us out at BransonCerakote.com for all your stencil needs. Have a great day.